Hi, it's Renee. I'm actually going to check my settings because I recorded this entire video once with my headphones off. So sorry if I sound a little rough. I've been dealing with a cold and I just talked to an empty mic for the last 10 minutes. Anyway, hey, it's Renee. This is Making Potions Blog 2, and I'm going to tell you about my adventures with Unity and my adventures with self-doubt and stress and my progress thus far and all the troubles I've run into. So this is going to be a little on the technical side. Because of that, I'm going to start with the stress part. Um, this is a scary adventure. I guess I've always had a fairly stable life. I grew up in the same house for 18 years, which apparently is extremely uncommon. And this is definitely jumping into the unknown for me. Not having a great income anymore and doing something that society normally thinks is silly. But it's also really cool. So I've had a few like stress times where I just wake up and lay there going like, "Oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Should I just like go get a full stack developer job and make more money than I need and half hate my life?" And then I think, no, I'm being absolutely ridiculous. This is a really awesome opportunity, and even if it doesn't work out, I'm learning so much already, and it'll set me up for probably something in the game industry, even if I don't have a successful game. But successful game is my goal, for sure. I also have had tons of really weird, I would say, like simple-ish Unity questions where I've haven't been able to look them up well, and I've had the support of an amazing friend group who have been willing to take time out of their busy days to listen to my problem or my questions and to provide me with answers and to help me when things are being really silly. So you guys know who you are. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're making this so much easier. And yeah, thanks. So now on to the more technical side. I'm going to go over the things which have given me trouble as I was making this, and I will show you examples. And before I get into showing you examples, I would like to note that I have been using some assets, and the assets for the main character were graciously lent to me by From Soy Sauce, who is currently working on a Toho Super Smash Bros. Fan game, kind of. And so if you want to check out any more of their work, their link is in the description of the video below, so check them out. All right, so Unity has been interesting to work with, mostly because I've come from a background of using pretty much pure code, like as almost pure code as you can get. So interacting with a UI suddenly is kind of weird. And I broke a few things a few times because I didn't realize how picky it was. But problems fixed, only lost a little bit of work here and there, and I'll go through what. So the first thing I noticed about Unity is that all the Unity 2D tutorials seem to be for platformers, which is awesome if you're making a platformer, but I'm making a top-down game, so that's not quite as awesome. The problem with platformers is that gravity is really important, and in my 2D game, there really isn't gravity. And I was having slight problems initially because I didn't notice the gravity thing. I only noticed the mass field, and so I was trying to put mass at 0 and it was going to like 0.0001, and then my character was still falling off the screen. I mean, that took like 2 minutes, but yes, gravity to 0 if you're doing top down. Then I worked on sprite animations. I worked on these animations just so I could get a feeling of it and so I could have a visual representation in my game between the different states of my character. These are by far, like this art is just completely placeholder stuff. The only thing that I've created personally is the background, and that's just because I happened to do like pixel art tiles in the past. Please don't criticize me. I swear this is gonna be the art I'm using. So sprite animations were cool, and I will actually show them to you. So I'm gonna switch over to my lovely Unity cam. So here we have girl in scene. I'm gonna hit play here. There we go, and you can see the scene end, or this ends. But see, she's blinking. This is her idol, and she's moving around. It's a little bit choppy just due to the fact I'm streaming, but it's actually quite smooth. So that's pretty neat. And if you guys haven't seen the animator for this before, it's just very simple. You set up two states and you attach the animations here, and then you have like these little transitions, conditions. And so I do mine on a speed element, which I attach to this and set to 0 and then modify in some scripts for movement. But that's getting way too technical, so I'm going to pop back out of here and continue onwards with my talking at you. So now that I had a sprite moving around, I needed to give her potions to throw. And I didn't want to just give her a game object potion because I knew that's not really how they were going to work. And so I needed to I looked into how to make multiple sets of similar things. And prefabs. Actually, a friend told me that when I was doing it, but prefabs. So I created a potion prefab that has its own set of scripts on it for its behavior. The potion prefab I have right now is just like one type of potion, but I plan to generalize it and make it multiple types of potions. If you notice in the movement of my character, she moves diagonally at the same rate that she does horizontally and vertically. And if you're making your own game, I mean, maybe you want diagonally to be faster, but probably not, because then your players will always move diagonally and they'll just like bounce up and down corridors because they'll figure out that they're actually moving faster that way. So the way to do that is to normalize your vector. Normalize vectors, then use them. And then I worked on actually spawning the potion on my character. So what I did was I put a game object on her, and then I spawned the potion onto that game object, so it had sort of an anchor. And that way she can grab her potion and fly around with it. And the reason I wanted her to be able to fly around with her potion is that I think that having the visual cue of what potion that you have in your hand is much nicer than having to see like what's selected in your hotbar. And the way that the controls I'm intending to work, I'll see if this feels best, this is how it's implemented right now, is that you control movement through WSAD or arrow keys, and then you select your potion using number keys either on the numpad or your top bar, and then you throw your potion by clicking the direction which you want it to go. So on spawning them on her, I had to write a script to ignore rigid body collision between the two, so that, well, which was happening before is that when I spawned it on her, it would like pop off to her side and then trail behind her, and I could just spawn a bunch of them, and she had like this giant trail of potions, but then she could fly back through them and they bump around and like cluster around her. Anyway, so what I did there was just make them not collide via script, physics ignoring stuff. So then I got to breaking Unity. And the first time I broke Unity, I have no clue what happened, and I hadn't saved my scene, so I actually ended up losing all of my animations, or I lost something that they were attached to, like I don't know, and when Unity broke, when I opened it back up, I lost all of like the GUI elements of, not in my game, of in Unity. So all I had was my scene preview and nothing else, not my Actually, no, I just had my game preview, and not my scene, not my animator, not my inspector, not my console. It just like broke. So I just factory reset it, which is not the same settings that it opened with. I think it like absorbs settings from the previous version of Unity I had, which I had used once. Anyway, fixed that, redid stuff. I did it at like 10 times faster when I redid it, but I think that was actually really good for me. It helped me solidify the skills and tool sets that I was working with. Ooh, and then I crashed Unity a second time just today by accidentally putting an infinite loop in it. So don't put infinite loops in Unity because it breaks it, like most programs. No infinite loops. Bad. Let's see. On the first time Unity crashed, I lost some file or something, and it caused a connection between my prefab and the variable in one of my scripts that was referring to it. And so it had initially just sort of, oh, I know what asset you're talking about. And I think, or maybe I moved it to a file. Anyway, that connection got broken, and I had no clue how to fix it. I looked up something, how to fix it online, and someone was saying, oh, you make a resources folder, and then you can direct load it from the resources folder, which sounded good initially. But then one of my friends pointed out that loading from the resources folder loads it at the scene load. So if you have a lot of files that you're doing that with, then you're loading them all at once instead of when they're needed. So that's sort of like bad no-no. And then one of my other friends said that I could declare it in the file and then assign it via like this little box that would pop up. And so I declared it in the file, like I should have. And I switched back over to my Unity inspector, and it just, the box wasn't there. And so I spent all these, I went back and checked my code, and I went back and the box wasn't there. I went back and checked my code, and I went back and the box still wasn't there. And so I like screenshot this and like sent it to someone. I was like, what the hell is going on? And so I spent probably a good 10 minutes being like I'm either retarded or like something isn't working. Apparently, Unity hadn't been refreshing it. So when I clicked off of that object, off of the girl, which it was on, and clicked back onto it, then it's like, oh, here's a box. I was told that's not how Unity's supposed to work, but that's what happened. So if you work at Unity and you're hearing this, you might want to look into that. Anyway, so that was all fixed. Yay. Let's see. I have notes here, so I'm cheating. Then I noticed when I was throwing my potions, I was sort of just like chucking them to the side. I like insta-teleported it where I wanted to at first. That then if I moved, they were moving with me. And so I learned how to detach from parents. Yay! Throw potion, leave potion. So the potion was a child, and then I made the parent null, and it became its own being. It grew up and went away. And then I was trying to throw the potions to particular points, and I noticed that it wasn't working like I thought. So what I was doing was I was taking the mouse input via camera ray to scene, which is what you should do, and it just was being weird. Like it was ending up like not going as far as it should, but sometimes it would go as far as it should, and then if I clicked in different directions, like, strange behavior. So I spent a lot of time figuring out what the hell was going on, because I was grabbing the mouse position and I was normalizing it and I was multiplying it by the distance I wanted it to go and adding the start position or subtracting the start position, and it should have been working. So I started doing like math on paper as to like why this should be working or shouldn't be working, and it should have been. I then realized, well, due to again advice, that the mouse doesn't necessarily give input on your scene. It's like out there. It gives input somewhere. So what was happening is my Z value was non-zero, and that was screwing everything up because I normalized it and then it wasn't going as far as it should. For those of you who are non-technical and probably haven't been understanding my blathering, X, Y, Z, Z comes out at you. So almost everything I'm doing is the XY plane, and then there's the Z plane. If you're questioning why I decided to use 3D vectors, even though I'm in a 2D scene, I decided that I may want to have objects come out and come back to the screen, or come out of the scene, and to preemptively prepare for that, I have been keeping everything in 3D, because I mean, it doesn't actually take that much effort as long as you realize that your inputs might have Z's. Anyway, watch out for that. And then the last thing that I played with a bit today, was adding curve to the path of my potion. So instead of just throwing it in a straight line, it has just like a slight curve in the y-axis. Like if you throw straight up, you don't really notice. It just controls the speed of how fast it's moving. But it's fairly noticeable at an angle or at horizontal. And that was my mistake. Like that's not something I should have done. I'm trying to keep everything very simple and bare bones just so I can prototype the game and get a good feeling for it. And that little arc might look nice, but it has very, very little effect on the gameplay. And it shouldn't have been something that I spent time on. So, like, tisk tisk, I now know that I shouldn't have. I mean, I realized I shouldn't have. So I'll try to keep things like that in mind in the future, and hopefully I won't get distracted with those little bits. So let me show you potion throwing and how it works. All right. Spawn potion, throw potion, spawn potion, throw potion. And you can see that slate arc. It's like whoop, whoop. Now, some of the things that I need to add are cooldowns, because I don't want my player to do this, because they can right now, which is absolutely hilarious. No spam potions. No potion spam. The other thing that I want is to not be able to throw potions while moving, especially while sprinting. That seems like a big no-no. And also, it adds a really interesting element to the gameplay. An element where there's that slight anxiety, I guess, where you have to stop to throw a potion, but as you stop and throw, you're vulnerable for that second, and you can't run away or dodge. You're like caught in that cast. And I really like that feeling in games. I think that's really cool. The other thing I need to do is, well, I need to make my potions explode. I need to get them to explode when they end here. And I don't know how I'm going to represent that right now. It's not too important, but I need to have a trigger for it. And then I need to have a trigger that occurs when this potion runs into an object, when it intersects either an enemy or a wall. It's basically going to be any time it runs into another rigid 2D object, it should do something, explode, whatnot. Then I need to work on various potion types, so I'm not just having this one prefab, like either put in multiple prefabs or child prefabs. I don't know if you can do that. Or just take the copies of the prefabs when I create them and check through like a dictionary of potion-esqueness of like new sprites and abilities and modify the prefab copies as I create them, which I think is what I'm going to do, but that's something I really need to look into. And then I also want to add in my broom sprint versus my normal walk. I know the animation here right now is a broom sprint. This is probably about the pace I want the broom sprint to be. But I also want sort of a normal jogging pace. And that pace is going to be your default combat pace, because with the broom, you have to get off the broom to cast your potions. You have to stop. Anytime you stop, you're going to get off it. And it's going to have a mount time. It's basically be like a sprint with a short mount time. And you can sprint indefinitely if you never stop moving. But again, I think that's going to lead to the anxiety of it, and you're going to have that judge of, the monster's coming. Should I throw the potion and then get on my broom and run away? Or should I run away now and throw the potion back? And I think that's going to be core to the gameplay. So that's going to be what I'm going to work on next. I know that there's a billion other stuff that I need to work on. One of the things is like having layers controlled by where you are on the y-axis, but one step at a time, and that step is not one of the most important steps. Oh, I guess the broom isn't either, but fuck it. Sorry. That's what I'll do. So I just wanted to reiterate, thank you all for supporting me. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, or if you have any comments, or if you have any advice or suggestions, totally either comment on the video or email me at renee@stumblingcat.com. or preferred, tweet at me. And my Twitter is RIKUKAT. And I'll include that down below. And so, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. This is an amazing experience, and I'm really glad to share it with you. And I hope you'll keep following along with me. So, thank you, and I'll see you next time.